Hey, Gary.
How are you, Amy?
Good.
You got that stuff I sent?
Yes, I did, and I forwarded it to my
Good,
friends, so
good.
hopefully he'll have some suggestions for us about what to do with it.
Yeah.
What a
Well,
mess.
it's a mess. I mean, it's clear that this is predatory stuff that we're dealing with.
Yeah.
And best I can judge, they're asking for $1,320, and my guess is that it's $20 for the people who own the rights to this,
Right.
$300 for the people who ran the program that identified this, and $1,000 for the lawyers to harass people into giving them the money.
I misread that. I guess I thought it was $330.
It's now that it's gone to the lawyers. It's they need their $1,000. So
All right,
it's
well, hopefully he'll have some suggestions for us.
yeah.
Maybe we can offer some fraction of that.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's what my sense is, that, I mean, the lawyers I've spoken to, a couple of them, said, just settle it, it's gonna cost you more to fight this thing than it is then you're gonna have to pay for it, and, so,
Right.
we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah. Ugh, what a mess. So with this new system, is there no host or are you the host?
No, I think, I'm guessing that our chair is the host, but
Hetty?
we're
But
early,
I
we're
don't think
early.
she's on yet.
I always go on early because I always get confused by how to get into these meetings. Yeah.
It seems like the rules keep changing.
Hi, this is Ginger. I'm on the
Hey,
How
Ginger.
phone.
are you?
Yeah.
I assume Hetty is on the call somewhere because she had to turn this on and get it going, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. She just sent me something, so I know she's around, but let me see if I can text her.
Hi, Gary.
Hello, Gary. Yeah, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah,
Yeah,
I can
hi.
hear you. Hi, I'm trying to get myself set up on my laptop so that I can launch the YouTube recording. So I'm multitasking, but I'll get us rolling as soon as I can. Let's see who else has joined us. Good. Peter, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, perfectly.
Did you see my text? In order to get into YouTube, it's sending a verification code to Peter 2020 iPad Air and iPhone.
Oh, great, okay, I'll look, that's new to me, but,
Okay. It says you have to open the Gmail app and tap yes.
all right, I'll do that right now.
And the code that you need is 49.
Okay.
All right.
Don't know that.
Oh, I think it may want me to go in on the Block Association account, because there's nothing in my Gmail. Just a minute.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm not seeing an alert from I'm in Gmail in either the Block Association or, okay, I have gotten these before. Let me open YouTube. Sometimes they send something on YouTube. Is there any way that you can try this again, Hetty, and see if you did this? I'm looking through.
It's the one that Rich created, UWS Block Association at gmail.com.
Yeah, that's right.
That's where YouTube says it sent the verification.
All right. Yeah. Oh, security log. Oh, great.
Got it?
We noticed a new sign into your. Oh no, that was yesterday. No, there's.
I'm going to try logging back into it and see if that'll generate it. And if we don't get this done shortly, we're just going to bail and get the meeting started. And if we can't do the YouTube part of it, oh well.
Right.
All right. It has sent it again.
Ah, I just got something. Yes. Okay. Now it worked.
Good.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
That work?
Let's see. I'm following Rich's directions and we'll see what happens. This is all way beyond my comfort level tech-wise. All right, so during meeting, we've started the meeting Zoom, it's live.
Great.
Click more.
I think,
God,
sounds like you've done it, Hetty. Congratulations.
I don't know about that. I'm looking at more. Click on live. Nope. Not giving me that option. YouTube still thinks that I am me, not the Block Association. All right. I don't know if anybody was trying to live stream, but I am going to bail on that and stick with Zoom. And we are recording it, so anybody who wants to see it will be able to see it after the fact.
Hetty, are you officially the host of this Zoom? Did you
Uh,
let people
Really
into?
good question. No, it says I am not the host because it says to me sign in as host.
Okay, because Gary and I both got in without, I guess, somebody.
Letting you in, as did I.
Okay.
Yes, as did I.
Right. I think Rich may have set it up that way since he wasn't going to be here.
Okay.
Okay, so. All right, I'm closing down YouTube, and in fact, I'm going to close down the Zoom on my computer, which I would prefer not to use. And instead, I have you all right here on my iPad, which has way better sound quality and way better video. Okay. And that leaves me my computer to use for looking stuff up as needed. All right, sorry for the delay. Thank you all for coming. Ginger, is that you on the phone?
Yes, it is.
All right, nice to see you all. I have the agenda in front of me, and the first item is the consent calendar. You know what? Before I start with the consent calendar, as far as I know, there is one addition of importance to the agenda. Gary requested that we talk about the copyright issues that are outstanding. Other than that, the agenda is as it was circulated and posted at the website. Nancy, did you have a look to see whether it was there, and did that work okay? You have to unmute. You're still muted.
Unmute lower left.
Thank you, Herb.
I know, I just couldn't get to Hetty. I didn't hear your question.
Oh, my question was, did you happen to look at the website to see if the agenda was there, and were you able to access it?
It is indeed there, and I got it. Yes, thank you.
Hey, we got something done. Woo!
Haircut.
It was a very good idea, Nancy, and I'm glad we were able to implement it as quickly and easily as we could. And that is thanks to Caitlin. So Caitlin, are you with us here? Yes, I see you're signed in. So thank you, Caitlin. Okay, so consent calendar. We have 3 items, the minutes which were circulated and the treasurer's report which was circulated and the BAIP report that was circulated. Does anybody have any comments or questions about any of those items? Amy?
On the notes, I had remembered the discussion about the possible bench for Cynthia slightly differently, and maybe I didn't go back and watch the recording, so I may have gotten it wrong. But there was one sentence where it said that most of the board, or a good portion of the board, was not in favor of a bench. They would prefer a plant or a bush. And that was not my memory of it. I know that we're waiting to see if we can raise enough money for the bench, so we haven't voted on it, we haven't decided. But I was just curious what other people's memory of that was, and whether I got it wrong or what the story is.
My recollection is that we like the idea of a bush, or an actual plant that we could go and, look at and say, see, that's what we did for Cynthia, but that you reported that it's just not feasible to do it that way. Hence the discussion of doing the bench.
Okay.
Yeah, and I thought the bench, we did have some discussion about it might be too expensive to do that. We'd have to raise quite a bit of money.
Yes.
Right.
We sort of left it that. That's what I recall.
Okay, so maybe that sentence could be slightly revised to reflect that we just haven't made a decision, but that there isn't necessarily a lot of opposition to it. Because the newsletter, which is going to be out any second, basically says we're trying to raise money, hopefully for the bench. So I hope that's true.
I have some things to add when we get to that topic in the agenda. That will help us know whether it's true. Okay, so other than Amy's comment about the minutes, does anybody else have anything they want to contribute to any of those consent calendar items? Okay, so am I allowed to make motions, or does that have to be from someone other than the chair?
I move that we accept the three consent items.
Second?
Second,
Oh, go ahead, Gary, with?
With the suggested changes to the issue of the bench.
Okay, is there a second?
second,
Any opposed?
Nope.
Okay, so that passes. I'm working on my lighting. Oh, so bright. Okay, moving on. Halloween recap. Do we have Mary? I think that's a no. Does anybody who was at Halloween want to chime in before I do? Okay, I will. Halloween seemed very successful in terms of very well attended. Lots and lots of kids. There were plenty of things for kids to see and do. There was face painting, there was a balloon guy, there was a stilt walker, there was a juggler. It was very, very busy, and there were tons of candy, and by all of those measures, yes, I think it was very successful.
And the chickens.
And there were chickens, so many chickens. The best costume I thought was a woman, an adult woman, who made herself into the solar system by having some sort of apparatus that was hanging down from her shoulders and was a big like hula hoop thing. And hanging from the hula hoop thing were spheres, all of which were, I think, paper mache and painted so they looked like all the different planets. Thought it was very, very clever. So, and the chickens that Peter referred to there was popular this year, this sort of inflatable chicken suit. And at one moment there were 3 different chickens on the block walking around. So I think if we're measuring success by attendance, it was very successful. I don't know how much money was contributed.
I think my recollection is that about $200 was contributed, and the overall costs of the thing, partly because of Mary and her ability to get people to do things for it. I think it cost us $800 total, so that was a real bargain event.
Okay.
I like to say something. The juggler, he was great.
I liked his costume too. So I have some concerns that we can discuss with Mary before the event next year if we decide to, about community involvement and how we prioritize the entertainers who are her personal connections and neighborhood people like Sax Freeman, who used to contribute a pumpkin, and I didn't see it, and I don't know if that's because he declined to do it or if he wasn't contacted. Janet Horvalchuk was willing to read stories, but it was very hard for her to do that because there had been no space designated for it, and in the hubbub of it, it just wasn't very successful. I feel strongly that if Mary is running the event and we want to keep doing the event, and this is how Mary wants to do it, that there's only so much that we can insist or require of a volunteer if we would like that volunteer to continue doing the project. But I think it's something that needs to be considered. Any other comments on Halloween?
This is the second year where I've sat at the table where we collected donations. And I feel, you were at the table with me, Hetty, and also Gay, who was really good at kind of reaching out to people and encouraging them to donate. And I think maybe next year we should try to figure out a way to be even more kind of noticeable in the event. And I think we could pull in a lot more money because people are so grateful that there's this event and they can bring their kids and they don't have to pay for each thing. And I think they're happy to donate. So I just want us to be a little more visible next year. That's my, those are my 2 cents.
Plus the Block Association table.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other comments on Halloween? All right, moving on. Caroling, our next event. It is scheduled for the 21st, which is a week from Thursday. Anthony is running it again. Anthony pointed out that it's the 40th anniversary of caroling. Anthony's sister, Roberta, had volunteered last year to update the song sheets. And with a gentle reminder earlier this fall, she actually got that done. So we have new song sheets. We have a new cover for the song sheets. I got very cute snowman paper from Staples. I have been in touch with Nanu about printing costs. I was able to do the covers over onto the fancy paper at school, but the song sheets themselves are 19 pages and we're thinking about 50 copies. I just don't think I should do that on a school copy machine. Nanu gave us a quote of $125 to do the photocopying. In years past, we've just stapled them together and they don't hold up very well, but it gets the job done. I've discovered that at school we have those binders, what are they called? Comb. It's not quite a spiral, but it clamps down and goes through the paper. So I can buy 50 combs at Staples for not very much money and put in a little time and we can have the comb binding instead. So before I committed to any of that, I wanted to bring it to all of you and see if we are in favor of spending a little bit of money on new and improved 40th anniversary song sheets. Any comments
you-
or thoughts?
You-
Go ahead, Ginger.
Yes, you collect them at the end so they can be reused.
Yes, every year. And every year a couple of them walk away, but mainly we get them back.
Right.
Sounds like the right thing to do. We should do it.
I think if Roberta went to the trouble of doing it and I'm willing to sit and use the comb thingy, paying Nanu a little bit to do the copying seems reasonable to me. Okay,
How
so
much did Nanu charge?
Nanu is asking for $124 to do back-to-back copies. It's two-sided, 19 pages.
Mhm. Thank you.
You're welcome. So somebody want to make a motion?
Motion for it, I move that we get the things printed and also with the binding on it so that we can have use of them for a few years.
Okay, any opposed? I mean, no, wait, I'm skipping
I'll
steps.
second.
Second,
Second the motion, thank you. Anybody opposed? Okay, I'm on it, they'll be ready. I have already scanned them and sent them to Caitlin for posting at the website. Amy has a decorative flyer that she's going to send out to our email list. I've sent the flyer around to my list of people in the larger buildings for posting on bulletin boards and distributing via building email lists as permitted. If anybody needs a copy who didn't get one in his or her email, please let me know. I'm happy to send it. And if the weather's nice, come on out and sing a song or two, or just walk around and enjoy being part of a very, very cheerful crowd. I'm always very grumpy before the event because it's such a busy time of year for me. And then walking around and seeing how much pleasure so many people get from doing it always just is such a lift. So that's what I have to say. I am checking my email before moving on to the next topic. Spring fundraiser is our next topic. If you can believe it, somebody has volunteered to coordinate it. Go figure. Her name is, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly, Shoria, and her last name is Gar. She lives across from me in the Broadmoor. Celia, do you happen to know her?
No, I don't.
Okay. Why are you smiling?
I'm glad.
Oh, okay. I thought you were laughing at my pronunciation.
No.
Okay. Anyway, I had invited her to the meeting. She had indicated that she would join us for the meeting. I meant to remind her and I did not do that. I realized earlier today that I had forgotten to remind her, so I sent her the link and invited her to join us if she could, but I don't see her here, so I think that's a no. Bob, is there a document somewhere that outlines the various tasks involved
You know, in a fundraiser?
in
No.
the spring fair as it used to exist?
Oh, sorry, it's the yard sale of spring set. Yes, I can go back a ways and make sure that it's as up to date as informative as it could be. Yes.
Okay. So if you would do that and send it to me, I'll pass it along to her. And if you don't mind, I'm going to CC you on it. So when she's getting herself together, if she has questions, she can ask you.
Sure.
Yep. And I will also put her in touch with Lynn Elliott, who I believe was willing to coordinate vendors. At least she was in the year past.
yeah, I was gonna mention that. There also, I have like half a dozen emails from people over the past year and a half who have wanted to help but didn't want to coordinate. So I'm gonna put those together. Maybe, do you want me to send them directly to her or through you?
Why don't you send them to me and I'm going to put everything all together in one big fat email and I will convey it to her.
Okay. And Lynn, Lynn offered to do that over a year ago, so I don't know if she's still interested, but I think there was a second person who was specifically interested in the vendor job. So if not her, maybe the other person. What?
I thought that was her, no?
There was her, and then there was another woman who also said she'd be willing to help with that specifically. So I don't know. I'll find it.
Okay.
I'll find it in my email.
Okay. And if you don't mind, since you're the one who's been in touch with Lynn, you could find out from her whether she's still game to give it a go.
Yeah, I will.
All right, so that is spring fundraiser. It looks like we've got some traction, and maybe by the time we put out the March issue of the newsletter, we'll be announcing a date, and there'll be a permit process and all the things.
I think I may be wrong about this, but I think the permit process probably needs to happen sooner than March. Like,
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
I think January, right, Bob? Is it usually
Submit, well, it used to be submitting it in February.
February? Okay. And also, did she indicate to you any idea of what month she would want to do it, or she's available to do it?
That's specific with her.
Okay.
I told her it was in the spring and that the date would be a little bit dependent on her availability.
Right. Okay.
Okay, but yeah, this permit certainly can go in before we announce and start getting volunteers for things and all that stuff that we do. But I was very excited that she was willing to give it a try. Any other comments having to do with the spring fundraiser? All right. Annual meeting. I've been looking high and low because I know that I had a piece of paper on which I had written, "Oh, that's a really good annual meeting topic." And of course, now I can't find that piece of paper. So if anybody remembers, help. But meanwhile, I had another idea.
You
We
had,
have a new city council.
someone had mentioned inviting Sean Abreu, who's the
Oh,
new
good.
council member. I don't
I
know if
just
that
had
was.
that idea the other day. Maybe that was the piece of paper.
Yeah, okay, I think
Okay.
that was it, Eddie.
Okay, good. Thank you, Peter. I think that would make great sense. And I get the feeling that he is making himself available for that kind of thing, because I happened to be in the elevator of a building on 96 and Columbus yesterday, and that building was having its holiday party, and the featured guest was Sean Abreu. So I think he's trying to get to know the neighborhood a little bit. So I propose that we make him our speaker for the annual meeting and start having a conversation with his office about a convenient date for him. Does that make sense to all of you?
I think
Somebody?
it would be great to have him there. And I had actually thought about another theme that we might want to have somebody speak about and have somebody in mind on it. I think the next year or two is going to be heavily involved in how we're managing traffic in the city with the advent of charging people to travel below 60th Street
96 or 59th Street.
and all of the impacts that's going to have with the diversion of trucks, which is going to have a big impact. Not to mention the issue of how we handle all the trucks we have today, how we handle all the electric bikes we have today, et cetera. And there happens to be a really pretty good, a really terrific person actually by the name of Rachel Weinberger at the Regional Plan Association. I saw her speak the other day at a meeting of planners in the city, and she really has a command of all of this kind of stuff. And some people on the committee have mentioned, maybe we should be thinking about doing neighborhood-based parking permitting. And that's a subject actually she spent a lot of time working on, and believe it or not, came out against on it. But I think we could actually afford to become more intelligent about all of these issues that are going to have secondary impacts on our neighborhood, and in some cases are going to have primary impacts if we have a lot of diversion of trucks going up, up West End Avenue and other places like that. I guess one possibility would be to have a couple of speakers, have one speaker, a couple of speakers, have Sean come and speak from a political and city, council perspective, and to have somebody speak substantively about a topic like transportation. But I'd leave it to you. I mean, she's not going away, so and traffic isn't going to go away next year, so we could have that the year after too.
Right, let's have a little bit of discussion about whether we think that we'll have a stronger annual meeting with one speaker or by having multiple topics.
Well, could we also have information on these topics at the spring fair? Have handouts and have maybe them come to the fair too to greet people.
It's certainly
I mean,
possible, although I think it's likely that the fair will be after the annual meeting.
Right. No, but I'm saying that's just an extension of our making information available to our community.
Yes, I think that would be a
It's
good.
an opportunity. Yes, an opportunity.
Yeah.
Continue.
Agreed.
Further.
Nancy, go ahead. I see your hand up. Make sure to unmute.
Yeah, just point of information, Gary. Hypothetically, trucks are not allowed on West End Avenue or
That's
Riverside
true.
Drive. That doesn't mean they honor it, but
Yeah.
that's a hypothetical.
I
Just point
understand
of
that, but
information.
in fact, one of the big impacts of this is going to be an enormous of the charging for people to drive through the lower half of Manhattan, is that it's going to divert a lot of trucks from going through that area and using the bridges. And
I understand.
so it's
Yeah.
Okay, Peter, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
So I agree. I think she's a really great speaker. Congestion pricing, I think the launch date for it is May or June now. So it will be coming at the time of our annual meeting. But in general, Sam Schwartz, who I think Gary has worked with actually, is also an Upper West Sider. He was on Brian Lair the other day. He's also an expert in it.
Yeah,
It's definitely a topic that it's worthwhile to get smarter about. I think he said that he is for residential parking, so that would be an interesting difference if that's the case. But in general, I think it's a good topic together with Sean. It may be a little bit much, but I do like the topic.
I think we need to give Sean precedence since he is elected and now our guy, or about to be our guy. But I agree that what's the better informed is better armed. What's that expression? Forewarned is forearmed. Just knowing as much as we can know is never a bad thing. Amy, I see your hand up.
Two things. One is when West 104th Street had their block association block party, Sean Ibarra was there and spent some time there. So I think he would be more than willing to come to ours, and we should invite him when we have the date. The other thing is, if we have him speak at our annual meeting, why not have a separate meeting a month or two later that we host that's about the subject of the congestion pricing and the effects on our neighborhood and the idea of residential permits?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, I'd be happy to organize that actually, and that seems perfectly fair. And Peter's right that it looks like the start date is moving on it. I mean, I'm also a close friend of Carl Weisbrod's, who's been heading the commission on the rules for the congestion pricing, and I'm sure Carl would be willing to come and participate in that as well. So we could hold a special meeting for the block, so that's hosted by the Block Association, open to anybody, not just people from the Block Association. Find a place for it and do it, in April or something like that, or early May, I think it would be really informative, and I think we should be drawing on these people who really know that stuff. It would be great to have Sam as part of it as well, and I'd be happy to organize that meeting.
Thank you, Gary. Gary, what's Sam's last name?
Schwartz.
Okay, that's what I thought I heard you say. So why don't we nail down our date for the annual meeting first, so we don't wind up having two meetings like right on top of one another. I will send an email to Sean Abreu's office and see if we can start that conversation. Since we don't yet have any commitments to work around, really, I would start talking with his office about, is there a particular date that would be better or worse for him? And maybe we can just, jump on a good spot in his calendar rather than trying to shoehorn him in 2 hours. I have not met him. Have any of you?
Yeah, I know him.
You can meet
Okay.
Sean.
What did you say, Herb?
Meet Sean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've met him. He's very available. I mean, he wants to meet everyone. He's a politician. He wants to meet us.
For as much as I would like to delegate this to somebody else, I think that in that I am acting chair, I probably should be the one to do it.
Mhm.
Does somebody want to talk me out of that, please?
Be our guest.
Thanks so much. All right, I'll do that. The next agenda item is matters financial. And Gary, we're going to include the copyright issue question in that since money is involved. Zoom account. In between last meeting and now, I made a decision that we needed to have our own Zoom account so that if Rich cannot be at a meeting, we can still have a meeting. He took care of setting it up. It cost a little over $100. I authorized Gary and Kamal to pay him back, which I think has already happened. So I didn't know, now that I've done that, whether we should sort of retroactively vote on it or whether I just need to announce that so I did it. Does anybody know what the protocol on that is?
I think we should implement our new electronic approval process, as we don't have to have a meeting. There's enough discussion back and forth, certainly. I think we authorized $150 actually, and maybe you didn't spend it all.
But he didn't. He said he got a coupon or something, so it was less than it ordinarily would.
Got a 30% discount, so I'd say, how do you say no to that?
Right. We put it toward the caroling song sheets. Okay, so that happened. I hope nobody minds, but I agreed that shifting the meeting around to different dates in order to get Rich's attendance in order to do the electronic part doesn't make sense. We've always met on the second Tuesday, and I think we need to stick with that. Yes, Nancy, I see you. Go ahead.
Having a Zoom account, I can set up a meeting on my Zoom account, whether or not I'm there. So
Right.
I don't understand why.
He was using his business account and he didn't
Oh,
feel
well.
comfortable having the business
He
account.
didn't have a personal account. Does anybody have a personal account? Because you can set it up in advance. I mean, there's no
A
additional
personal account-
cost.
Well, I think,
personal account's too short. It's
What? I'm
35 minutes.
No, it is not. I pay for a
Oh, you pay.
limitless account.
You pay, okay, well,
Yeah.
that's the same thing.
If anybody has such an account
But,
already,
we've already done this. I mean, he's already,
It's a done
if I
deal.
understand it correctly, on the thing that he sent us, he actually has set up the meetings for all of those dates for next year and the rest of it. And it's an unlimited length meeting account, and it was very cheap. It was a lot less than I paid for my personal account on it, and so I mean, I'm not sure, other than to rescind that, I don't understand why we were even debating it.
Right. Nancy, I
I
think, hold on one second, Celia. Nancy, part of the answer to your question, and maybe Celia has an additional perspective to add. For instance, my husband has one that he uses for his business, but I didn't feel comfortable.
I understand that. I'm just saying I had a personal account when I was on the board that I used that cost the board nothing. And I had the personal account anyway, so I didn't care. And it was a limitless amount of time.
But if you weren't going to be there, would you have?
I
felt
could still
comfortable?
I could set it up. There was no problem.
And you didn't feel concerned about it being used in your
I
absence?
did not. I did
Okay.
not. I'm not saying you should do that. I'm just saying I did that.
Right. Celia, go ahead.
Well, there were several concerns. There was the security concern. We wanted to avoid having Zoom bombers at the meeting. And then the setup was intended for live streaming to YouTube. And if I remember Rich correctly, there's an additional procedure, an additional cost that would make that possible.
Right. I don't know if it's an additional cost, but there is an additional procedure. And Rich took the time and trouble to make a nice long, instruction sheet for me to follow, but I failed. So we're not using that tonight. But we will post the recording from the Zoom account at the website, and maybe we can put that at the YouTube account. I'm not sure, after the fact. All right, but yes, as Gary said, it is already done. I think it is more professional to have a Zoom account with the Block Association's name connected to it. And so we went that way. Second of our three financial topics is end of year giving. Historically, in December, we give a gift to St. Luke's. We've continued to do that even though we haven't been meeting there. Last year, Kamal has told me that it was a $400 gift. I think we should do it again this year, just out of friendliness and good neighborliness, and because we do intend to resume meeting there again. And certainly the people who live in the house would benefit from a little extra kindness from an outside organization.
Yeah, and actually they were helpful in the Halloween parade. I forgot to mention that in your telling of that. So they stored all the stuff. They helped us lug stuff in and out of there. So they're very good community partners in that respect.
Okay.
And we have storage space there.
Right, which is very useful. So does anybody have anything to say on the topic of the amount? Do we want to stick with the 400 from last year? Do we want to decrease or increase?
I think we should give them 500. We're in better financial shape.
Ginger?
But I'm also saying that they help with the planting, and also with the spring fair too. They also help with that, and we'll be calling on them this summer, this spring.
Right.
So I mean, they're.
Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion, 500.
Anybody want a second? Anybody opposed? Okay, so Gary, do you have the checkbook or does Kamal have it?
I have it.
Okay,
Could somebody just send me a note on that, confirming that the board's authorized this, and who I should send it to, and et cetera.
yes. It's an interesting thing, Gary. We don't make it out to St. Luke's, the institution, the residential treatment center, because then it goes into the whole of, I guess it's Mount Sinai or whoever owns it now, and they don't necessarily get it.
Yeah.
So in order to make it so the house gets it, the check gets written directly to Ray Dooley, who manages the house, and delivered to him. But I'll put that in an email on.
In a note, and I'm
Yeah.
happy to get it to him. Yeah.
I will do that. We also gave the Riverside Park Conservancy $100. although I am in favor of supporting them, I think we are anticipating that we're going to be making a larger donation in Cynthia's memory. So either we should decide to do that now for 2023 calendar year, or we don't make a donation now and put it off a little bit till we see how close we are to the bench and do it then. Comments?
I would think we should put it off until we know more about the bench.
Any other comments? I'm fine with that. I'd rather give them one big amount than give them, you know, a little bit just for the sake of giving them right now. So we will talk about that some more in January, or until we figure out what we're doing. Broadway Mall Association. Oh, Caitlin, I see your hand up.
Sorry to bomb in on your conversation. I am curious how much the bench is.
Amy, do you remember?
Yeah, I do have the number. We're being given a discount.
Oh,
So,
what's the usual number?
the usual number is 7,500. We're being given a considerable discount on that.
The reason I'm asking, and this is probably for another conversation at another board meeting, and I obviously wasn't there when you debated how to honor her memory. And obviously I would support the Riverside Park development, or, you know, supporting the park and the permanency of that. But I just wonder if there's an opportunity here to have some sort of prize or something named within the Block Association for her, that somehow engages the community, or children in the community, or young people in the community. You know, prize for sort of someone who has rolled up their sleeves to come to the table for the Block Association. And it just might be a way to develop another layer of the Block Association, and to put it in her name and sort of memorialize it within the Block Association, rather than a static thing that sits on the drive. And, you know, it's nice to support the river, but it's not necessarily mission driven, is all I'm saying. So I'm sorry to sort of side road the conversation, but that occurred to me earlier, and I thought it might be worth putting it.
It's an interesting idea, Caitlin. We also had talked about some other things, including having 103rd between between Riverside and West End renamed for her. I don't feel like we have to limit ourselves to one thing. So it's certainly something that we can continue to kick around as we see where we're going, since we already have announced the bench initiative in the newsletter. I don't want to back off of that.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Are you aware of what the Three Parks Democrats are doing? Because I think there's some talk about some award or scholarship in Cynthia's name that was being planned, but I don't have the specifics about it.
Oh, no, I don't know anything about that, but we're skipping ahead to honoring Cynthia, which is a little bit down the next item on the agenda, but we can stew it all together. Three Parks, when I asked them about publicizing the bench project, and of course giving them credit and including them in whatever ceremony we might arrange ultimately, they were entirely willing to put it out in their next newsletter. 104th Street, I sent it to Steve Zirinsky, and he said that he thought that was, I think he said that was worth, let me see what he said before I misquote him. I also sent it to BAIP, to Jean, what's her?
Schmidt, is that her
Yeah.
name?
She's the current president. And I have not heard back from her. But what he said in response to my question about publicizing the bench initiative was he would bring it up at their next meeting and he would be in favor.
Mhm. Okay.
So he also thought that he used a funny word. He said, maybe something more Zoftic. And my understanding of the Yiddish word Zoftic is that it describes people, not so much a project, but that's how he used it. And then I said, well, we're also talking about renaming the street, which I know some of you were not excited about, but I like it. And I don't think we all have to be 100% on board for every single thing. And he said to that one, that is Zoftic. So not sure I would want to go that far, he said, but interesting. Nancy, go ahead.
Yeah, Bob and I are good friends with somebody who's very active in Three Parks and was a very good friend of Cynthia's. I can ask her what Three Parks is planning vis-a-vis what Celia is saying.
Okay, that would be helpful. Thank you. Also regarding, since we're talking about the Cynthia stuff, I don't know if you remember that I had mentioned I had written to Keith L.T. Wright, I think his name is, and I haven't heard anything back from him. I did, in fact, get an email back from him a couple of weeks ago. Thank you for reaching out. I'm looping our party secretary, Barry Weinberg, who will be in touch with you. And that was November 30th. So I gave him a little time, but I haven't heard from him. So I'm going to ping him and see what's going on. Anyway, so that's part of our financial matters discussion. We agreed, I think, that we're going to wait on Riverside Park Conservancy till we have a better idea. Caitlin, I made a note about some sort of prize in her honoring her dedication to service. I think it's a nice idea. And it would be a good way to involve the youth in the neighborhood, kids who are doing community service-minded things. Just recently, since Caitlin, I don't know if you read about it in the newsletter yet, there was a young woman named Tara, I'm blanking on her last name. She's the daughter of a family who lives in the neighborhood. She was doing an internship out on Governor's Island called Earth Matters and decided to do a mulching project up here on our streets as part of her internship. So I think what you're thinking of is something like that, where somebody's really making an effort in a way that Cynthia had committed to.
Right. Well, wasn't Cynthia also encouraging young people to go into politics or get internships that way? And I think her nephew mentioned something too, how he had been inspired by her.
Mm-hmm.
And he's now, so that's something that would be close to her, her own mission.
Yes,
I mean,
I know that she did that for her nephew. I don't know if she did it for other young people as well, but for sure her nephew.
But I think he mentioned in general that he mentioned that she had been very interested in encouraging others, and then he mentioned himself. So I don't know that it was just limited to him, that she would speak to anyone that was interested in a young person. I mean, I don't know how extensively she did it, but I do think that seems something fitting to it, what she was about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we will.
Anyway, I mean, we don't have to limit ourselves.
That.
Yeah, over time we can, we don't have to just do one thing,
Right. But if we had some kind of award like that, I'd love the idea of some kind of award for a local person who goes above and beyond. I mean, we could do at our annual meeting, we could give out the Cynthia Doty Award for public service or something.
Right.
I mean, that's a really nice idea, and it kind of works with the Neighborhood Hall of Fame, like the other side of it, maybe more geared toward younger people.
Right, not just the old kids.
right, and looking to the future.
Yeah, that's a good term, Ginger. Thank you. Looking to the future. Okay, Broadway Mall Association. Last year we gave them $100. Does anybody have any thoughts on donating to the Broadway Mall Association this year? Have we gotten any kind of request from them? I guess that's no request. What do we think? Do we want to continue to support them?
Didn't they used to invite you to some kind of party at the end of the year or Christmas time?
Yeah, I went to it once and won something in the auction. And by won, I mean bid on. But I haven't seen that in a while. Maybe they're not doing it.
They haven't been in touch with us, is you're saying.
Right.
We've been past contributors, I know.
I would say since we haven't had a request from them and we really don't know what they're up to so much, that maybe we wait until we get solicited by them.
I agree.
I think it'd be okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's fine by me.
I'd rather support St. Luke's right now, and we'll deal with Broadway Mills when it comes up next. Also, last item in the end of year stuff. Normally we give to a guard. We don't have a guard, so we don't have to do that. In the past, I'd say a good 10 years now, David and I always do something collaboratively that the Block Association and BAIP together pay for toward the St. Luke's New Year's party. So usually it's a small amount of money. It's either, you know, sodas and chips and salsa or cookies and candies for dessert or something like that. But it never exceeds a total of about, I don't know, $150 that the two organizations share. So do we want to continue doing that this year? I'm in favor.
I mean,
So,
we
Yeah,
need
I
all
think
the-
it's a good idea.
we need all the good cheer we can get at this point, you know.
Yes. If that affects anybody's feeling about whether we're sending 400 or 500 to St. Luke's, we can take that into account. We're not paying a guard. We've got some money. All right, so let's leave it at 500 for St. Luke's, and that's a yes on New Year's. Capped at half of 150.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Ginger?
you know, that's fine. I know the people there are always appreciative.
They are. Okay, Gary, the floor is yours. Copyright.
Amy suggested, I think was a good suggestion, that we should really do this in executive session.
Okay.
Can we turn off the recording of this?
Why don't we wait till the end of the
Let's leave it
public
to the end.
meeting and we'll turn off the recording and we'll let the people who aren't on the board go about their business and we can talk about it then. Good point. I forgot you had said that. Okay, next on the agenda, security company. Peter has circulated a document through Google Docs that has his thoughts about the security company. And if you have not had a look at it, I think you should. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it tonight because I don't think we're going to find ourselves with a decision tonight. But the thing that we all need to be thinking about is several things. One, Peter suggested that it would be a good idea to hire a consultant who could take a look at our needs and advise what the best way to go forward would be, and whether we want to get involved with some sort of camera system that could take advantage of the cameras that already exist in the neighborhood, or do we want to stick with our same old format that we've used historically? And I propose that rather than go deep into that tonight, we table that for January. And I already have another item tabled for January at Peter's suggestion about, and we can all think about it between now and the January meeting, about hiring someone to serve as an administrator to take care of some of the tasks that fall to us that could be hired out. Herb, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I have one of those troublesome fundamental questions. Is there some perception that there's a security issue? That are people being mugged?
I wouldn't say it's a perception that there's an issue. It's more of that's what the Block Association was founded to provide. And for many, many years, that's been the crux of our fundraising. All the money went to that. We certainly can change that if we don't think it's necessary. Every time we've pulled the residents to find out whether it's necessary, we get kind of a 50-50. Yes, I think it's a great deterrent, and no, why do we need this? So
I have to say, I was mugged on this block in 1966, but it seems like a different day, different times, and I kind of wonder. I mean, I don't see security guards on most streets. I don't see muggings. But I understand if this has been the raison d'etre, why it would come up over and over.
right. It's a sticky wicket because
we,
it's a very expensive raison d'etre, and we spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to raise the money for it. Gary, go ahead.
Well, I think Peter should give an update of we've done a little bit on this subject, including having a person from a security company called Security USA walk with us around the blocks. And the first question she asked us was, what would you hope to succeed by having a guard out there? Since guards can't do anything other than dial 911 and report a suspicious person and wait and hope that the precinct will send somebody over to take a look at it, which is highly unlikely on it. She also looked at the crime statistics for the precinct, and her immediate reaction was there are really only two areas where the crimes are significant in this area. And the precinct 24 covers a lot of ground as well on the other side of Broadway, as well as this side of Broadway. And the two things which were where there were significant numbers of crimes were break-ins to cars and what I forget the term for it. Peter probably knows it, but it's essentially muggings on private property.
And in the vestibules,
yeah,
when people
vestibules. This is really vestibule crime. Somebody follows a person in after they go into a vestibule where there isn't a guard or there isn't anyone stationed in it, and guards aren't going to do anything about either of those two things, I don't think. And so, Peter, why don't you share your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I don't think we need to discuss this at this meeting because it's a long discussion. And there's no decision, we just were at the very beginning stages of even thinking about this. So I would really suggest that, first of all, everybody just, read the document for what it is. You can comment on it and we can put it off until January. But, what Herb and Gary has said is pretty. You're going to read all about that in the document, and we're looking into some other things. So I don't think we really should take too much time at this meeting. You have a whole bunch of other things you want to get through, Hetty. So I would just put it off until January or February. We've lived with this now for the year. Nothing terrible has happened. We're not going to make a decision right away anyway. I don't see any great urgency to this.
So please do read the document.
Yeah, and we Yael, who we took the walk around the block with, she's going to get us a proposal at some point. They're all Israelis in that company, so they have a lot of other things on their mind at the moment. So,
I'd like to see the proposal because I think that's where we started, which was, okay, here's a company that's been recommended by someone. with, had experience of this company, and what would it cost to reinstitute
Right.
what we used to have.
So
She's
she
not-
might give us a price on that. It was kind of interesting to say, she said in their own business, they don't even have a security guard anymore because they found it of low value. So the whole security, and we see this on our blocks as well, it's all moving towards camera and prevention, and most of the crime is done, by repeat offenders, and security cameras seem to be what even police and professionals like that organization are recommending. The issue is that everybody has their own security cameras and they don't talk to each other. But I don't know that problem isn't going to be solved sometime in the future as well.
You started out, I thought you started with the right question that she asked before she can write a proposal. What problem is she solving?
Exactly,
What do we
right,
want?
right.
Historically, we've wanted a deterrent. And we've
Yeah.
wanted someone who could be in the right place at the right time, but won't necessarily be in the right place at the right time.
But we kind of wanted a security guard, but I think the question before that is what problem are you solving?
Right. Is there a problem that needs solving, really?
That's my point.
Okay, let's come back to it. Newsletter update is next up. The newsletter has been published. I got a copy of it today. I haven't really looked at it or opened the cover. Eliza picked it up, I think yesterday.
It was
Um,
yesterday.
I couldn't hear. Celia, was that you?
I said, yes, it was yesterday.
Okay, thank you. I have to thank Amy and Ariana especially for doing such a good job like they always do. I can't say it's, practically no work at all, because that would be a lie. It's a lot of work. But they're both so good at what they do that it makes it very simple. I see that Terrence is still on our Zoom, but I don't see his person, but he's doing the best he can to keep us with new advertisers and ride herd on the old ones and keep that aspect of the bringing in some money healthy. I don't want to take much more time with that. I don't think there's much more to say. Amy, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, except you should give yourself credit for riding herd and making it happen, because yeah, pat yourself on the back, because without you, I don't know, there would not be anything on those pages. So,
But without you guys, I wouldn't be doing the part that I do, because what you do is really labor intensive. So we're a team. I refer to Amy and Ariana as my A team, because Amy and Ariana both start with A. It gives me a laugh every time I type it.
and Avery, the indexer, is also an A.
Avery, the index. We have to get Terrence to change his name.
And thank you very much for putting Ted Berger on the cover there. That's going to mean a lot to them. They really had a lot of fun, and they've gone through a lot of medical issues. So I think they'll be very grateful.
Oh, that's nice. They've done a lot for the neighborhood, so it hadn't occurred to me to do it for that reason, but I'll take credit for it anyway. So, good. I'm glad it'll bring them some cheer. Open Streets update. Tell us what's going on, Peter.
The winter planting is happening. They wanted to wait until the caroling date was announced, so it's going to happen on December 21st. So there should be new. I'm just kidding. There are going to be there are 24 new planters. Most of those are going on the Amsterdam block that doesn't have any, and a couple more. And all the planters will be refurbished with winter plantings on the 21st. So, and there'll be 24 additional ones altogether, in addition to the either 16 or 18 that are now on the blocks. So that's the main thing.
Okay. Any news about any additional work being done? Do you have any new events coming up?
The event calendar is something we're going to be working on in the next 90 days. There's the main part of the additional work will be the new planters, mostly on the Amsterdam Avenue block. The Toll Brothers, bollards and all of that is supposed to be cleared out by the beginning of the year. So there'll be, there'll be significant additional parking when that happens.
Okay,
You have almost a block worth of parking, which is not available right now, which will be available after the new year. It wraps around Broadway and halfway up the block up Amsterdam.
okay. Any other questions, comments having to do with open streets, Nancy?
Yeah, Peter, would you clarify for me what your role is in relation to 103rd Street as an open street?
I'm the volunteer coordinator for the West 103rd Street Open Street Community Coalition.
And what is the Open Street Community Coalition? What is that?
It's the designated volunteer group by DOT. It's on their website.
Uh-huh. And who are the members of this coalition?
They're volunteers.
I understand. Who are they? You and who else?
I don't want to go into.
Oh, I think you should go into it, Peter.
Well, I know that's what you think, but I don't choose to, Nancy. So I'm not going to.
Then I would like you
So
to.
I'm very sorry.
I would like you
but
to tell me how I can find that information out, Peter.
It's up to them. You can look on the website.
Who's
and ask
them? Who's the them? Who's the them? This is really, you are obfuscating what you're doing, and I really want.
Yeah, and you're asking a bunch of hostile questions. You've been trying to shut down the open street for a year. I'm not going to get into it with you, Nancy.
I'm asking for information, Peter. And if you're not going to give it to me, I'll try to get it some other way. But I think that you are obfuscating something.
Be my guest. You can look at the information on the website, and if you want to engage in a productive conversation, that's fine.
I have looked at it, and there are no names there, Peter.
Okay.
I have a question that maybe could bridge this. Peter, I understand your point about giving out names of people who may not have necessarily signed on for that. Nancy, I understand why you have an interest in who beyond Peter is forming this coalition. Are there other organizations that are part of the coalition?
Yes, there are. There are community partners. I believe those are all listed on the website. It includes Hostelry International and Wissfish and other organizations that you can find there. There's an annual report that has a lot of information. So there's been a lot of information in terms of naming the volunteers. Nancy, look, I mean, the opponents have been very.
I'm not asking for names of volunteers. I'm asking for who the members of the coalition are. No,
you just
I
did.
Asked for no, you misheard me.
The names of the community partners are in the annual report, which is on the website. Okay, you can find it there.
And there are no names. There are just organizations.
There are names of organizations there. Yes.
No names of people.
There are names of organizations there.
Well, you said you didn't want to know the names of the people.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, there have been a lot of really abusive information, doxing, constant. Peter Frischow, millionaire Peter Frischow, who lives on West 103rd Street. This is his phone number.
I'm not responsible for that.
I know you're not. I'm just saying that there has been a lot of abusive. There's been a lot of abusive behavior, and I'm just not going to help anybody be a part of that. Vandalism, taking down tow away signs during the construction of the open street.
Unfortunately, I think you're going beyond what I'm asking you, and I have not participated in any of that. So therefore, I think this is an unfruitful conversation we're having right now.
I
I
agree.
agree.
Propose we end it right now.
Okay, I think the information that Nancy is looking for is that if it's a coalition, there are other members of the coalition beside Peter. And Peter, you've answered that and said that the other members of the coalition are listed in the annual report, which is findable at the website. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Let's move on. I circulated a draft of the bylaws, and that is why Caitlin and Terrence, I believe, are both here tonight. I've seen your various comments about what things still need to be changed. Celia took some time to identify additional categories of members. Peter had proposed dropping the age limit of the members. Herb thought that didn't make sense. Caitlin thought that was a great idea. So we've got a lot of differing opinions. If anybody has not weighed in about the bylaws and would like to, I would like to hear what you have to say. In order to keep us moving along and not make it be a very late night, I was going to propose that I would look at all of the comments and suggestions that I have received, incorporate them into the draft that I had circulated and come up with a revised draft and recirculate that. But if anybody has anything they want to discuss now, let's do that before I do that revision. Amy.
My only, I love the idea of not having to discuss it tonight when it's already late. My only concern is there's some things that really are discussions. They're not just wording. There are things that are just wording. But for example, how do we define a member, a voting member, you know, all that stuff. So I'm fine with that as long as when you get to those parts, you put in big type, we need to discuss this.
Correct. And it may be that the way in which I revise those categories based on the comments that I've had will cover some of the concerns.
Okay.
But no, I'm not creating anything that's a done deal. It's just trying to move us forward without getting bogged down in long discussions,
Right.
long unproductive discussions. I think it's easier when you have something to look at.
And the only other thing I assume we'll be discussing this over the next few meetings at least. If we were going to prioritize anything, it would be my preference to prioritize the member issue and the nominating board members issue before the annual meeting, if we can, just so we have some guidelines in place.
Correct. I agree. Was there anything in the draft having to do with the nomination process that was of concern to you?
I think I sent you my notes. I had a couple things that, you know, about how people are nominated, whether you need a certain number of people, so on. So you have that.
Amy and I had an exchange about what defines a quorum. And I think a lot of this discussion about what makes you a voting member is very important in terms of us being able to have a meeting with a forum.
Right.
I think this is a very important issue.
It's why I backed off of my position that anybody who lives within the territory is a member, because that means that the 10%, we would have to have 200 people voting, you know, at a meeting and voting, and that's not realistic. Mm-hmm. Getting 10% of the contributor list, that's a little bit more in range.
And maybe we want to even make it smaller group, like you have to attend 2 meetings in the last year or something of that sort.
Any other thoughts to take into account before I make another revision? Caitlin, go ahead, and then you, Gary.
Again, I'm sorry because I wasn't privy to prior conversations about this, so I apologize if this is redundant. I share those concerns about the quorum, and as a person who generally comes, as a non-board member who generally comes to the Block Association, I just want to observe that engagement is really tough, and the people who show up are the usual suspects, but you get more people depending on the topic you're putting out there. And so the engagement piece to me is extremely important. And you might consider, you know, a vote by newsletter or some other, I don't know if there's an electronic way to vote if you really have to go for the quorum. I wonder if you could discard the quorum altogether and just use a quorum of people present at the annual meeting somehow. I'm not sure how that parses with corporate legal speak. And then the last thought I had was, you know, I know you looked at 104th Street's bylaws, but there's one other rather robust block association, as I recalled, Melissa, I want to say Elstein, but that might not be her name, down in the 70s. And I wondered if they had bylaws that might be analogous to our.
Caitlin, may I answer Caitlin's question?
Yes, please.
Her name is Melissa Elstein, and the name of the organization is the West 80s Neighborhood Association.
It appears to be a very active block association. I assume they've had this issue before, but the first thing when you move to revising the bylaws, which I think is very important, especially in light of the last meeting, which I thought was extremely difficult. The fear is the quorum, and how you're engaging the people to vote and elect. So perhaps even like a co-op board, a slate needs to go out in the newsletter and somehow empower people to vote electronically or log in, or I mean there could be other mechanisms, but
Right, so maybe we can have a slate together in time for our March newsletter and see if that inspires us to create an additional method of voting other than attending the annual meeting.
and the last thing I wanted to say, and I will cede after this, is the reason I was so excited by the notion of a drop of the age limit was, I mean, Teddy and I have had this conversation many times about sort of the purpose of the Block Association, the future of the Block Association, the extreme difficulty of engaging new volunteers and getting people to take up duties, and this kind of preconceived notion that younger families won't participate because they're so busy being young families. And I'm not going to say that I don't necessarily buy all of that, but it's hard work to cultivate and engage those people. So I just thought if there was some way to bake into the bylaws incentives, such as having younger people have a vote, have a voice at the table, that would inherently engage families. The parents would have to be involved, and you would sort of be templating the future civic leaders, and it could also sort of hew to civic credits that you need in school for volunteering and that kind of thing. And I just think it would be a wonderful vehicle for engagement of a population we have almost no access to as the Block Association.
And I think your thought about something for a young person in memory of Cynthia would accomplish that same end.
In a different way.
Yeah.
And we could have a junior auxiliary. I'm not concerned about that. I'm concerned about 16-year-olds voting about decisions that will not affect them when they go off to college in 2 years.
Well, there may be a bridge category, like how the public library has the Young Lions, and all of the nonprofits now have some category of membership meant to attract younger people.
And here's Rich.
And here's Rich. Hi, Rich. Okay, maybe he doesn't have audio just yet. All right, any additional thoughts to share about bylaws, Nancy?
It's not bylaw related, but perhaps it is. I really appreciate that the agenda is on the website now. I would like to suggest that Celia's excellent minutes be posted after they have been approved by the board, because they're not there. And I think, again, in the interest of the community at large, it would really be helpful to have those minutes posted.
I had thought that, but hadn't organized myself enough to raise it. So thank you, Nancy, for bringing that up. Celia, as the one who takes the minutes, I think your comfort level with that takes priority. And you can give that some thought if you care to, and we can discuss it in our executive session. But I am in favor of the transparency. I don't love the idea of being recorded while I'm running these meetings and having those recordings up at the YouTube. It gives me the heebie-jeebies, but I get that there's a good reason to do it, so we're doing it.
But
Okay.
again, I think that Celia's minutes have always seemed to me to be excellent when I was on the board, and very, very professional, and very neutral. And I think once they've been approved by the board, it seems only right that they be posted.
I second your opinion of Celia's minute taking, and Celia, if nobody's taken the time to say thank you for doing it for such a long time and so well, I'd like to take that moment now and say thank you.
Thank you. She does a great job.
Small round of applause for Celia. So thank you. Anybody else have anything they want to throw into the mix about bylaws? And if you'd rather email me, I'm going to go through all my emails and look at all of your comments before doing an update. Yes, Gary.
I think to get to closure on this stuff, we're gonna have to be all in one room. And I hope we are looking at the prospect of starting meetings face to face in January, so that we could actually bring back these draft bylaws and have a real discussion face to face.
It's a good idea. Maybe after we deliver the St. Luke's holiday gift, I will send an email to Ray Dooley and check in and see what he has to say about that.
I was never at a meeting that was in person, because when I joined, we were already on Zoom. The room that we had, does it have ventilation? Is there a window that can be opened?
There is a window, there is an air conditioner. It's in the back of the house.
Mhm.
Amy, you know there's something moving behind you, right?
It's a cat, it's a cat.
Okay.
Don't worry.
I thought it was a cat, but just in case. It's the back room of the townhouse on the main floor. It does have a window. I believe it even has a door that maybe we could open, but it is an old building and it doesn't have anything like a modern ventilation system.
Okay.
So we may choose
we
to wear
might-
masks.
Right, I was gonna say we might choose to wear masks, at least to start with, in the winter when it's, you know.
Right.
Okay.
Any other topics, thoughts, comments before we switch over from public meeting to executive session? I'm looking for hands. Are you just waving, Herb, or you're raising your hand? You're muted. You're on mute, Herb, so whatever it is, we don't know. Okay, so would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn the public meeting?
I move.
Somebody
we adjourn
second?
the public meeting.
Herb is seconding. Peter's seconding. Nancy's waving goodbye. Bye, Nancy. Bob, thank you for agreeing to let Shoria be in touch about Spring Fair stuff. To those of you who are signing off, thanks for coming. We really do appreciate the input of others. And they have left, so that's the end of that. All right, executive session is beginning.
Do we stop-
Celia,
wait,
do you have
we
to use
stop
a
the
different?
recording too?
Yes, we're going to stop recording if somebody knows how to do that. Rich is now here, so I'm looking. I'm not the host, so I don't know that I can do that. Rich, are you in earshot?
I'll text him and.
You know what? I might be able to do it.
Didn't
I'm
you
trying
say?
so. Because
Sorry, I'm bike riding on
okay.
the bike path on the west side heading home.
So maybe
Hetty,
you
you
can
have to do it. You need to go. I don't know
have
how
to
you set it up on the
sign
iPad,
in.
but in the up, I know like for me, it's on the upper left of the screen. There's an option to stop live streaming to YouTube.
Let's see. I never got the YouTube running. We just need to stop recording the Zoom.
Oh, then on the bottom of the screen, it should just have a stop option,
I'm looking.
which means someone's going to need to download this and upload it to YouTube.
Right. Somebody will. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
I
try
see, I
signing
see,
in as
I actually,
host.
I see a stop. Oh, no, that's not the right one. Never mind.
I think
Yeah.
Hetty has to do it. It should be on the bottom of your screen where it says record.
You know,
It should give you
Oh,
an option to
It's
stop.
under more. If you go to more, there's an option that says record and captions.
Hold on. The problem was that I was not signed in as Block Association. I was just signed in as me. So
Is
and now I
anyone signed
see-
in as Block Association?
No. Here I now see live stream to YouTube, which is, here's the
Well, that
record.
didn't happen.
No,